Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to take a minute and allow everybody to make their way into the Zoom room here. We'll get started momentarily. We know that some folks might not have been able to make it to today's session, but that's okay because we have plenty of other sessions happening throughout the summer. And these will also all be recorded and shared with students following the session. So no worries if folks weren't able to make it or if someone needs to jump off a little early, anything like that. All right, looks like we're starting to slow down with our participants joining. So we will get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Jake Goldblum. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the Associate Director for Global Network First Year Programs, and I work specifically with the London Scholars Program. And I'm joined here today for our Q&A for the London Scholars Visa process by our colleagues from the London Visa Compliance team. So I'll turn it over to Catherine for some introductions.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Baker. I am the Visa and Immigration Compliance Manager at Northeastern University, London. I'm joined by my colleague, Migley. Migley, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. So my name is Migley, and I am a Visa Compliance Officer here at NU London.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. And so just so folks know the run of show essentially for today, we will have a short presentation from the Visa team, and then we will transition into our Q&A. So we have a few questions that we want to address early just because we know that things have been coming up for some folks. So we want to chat about that. And then we will also be taking some questions in the Q&A box. So you should see at the bottom of your screen, you can enter a question at the bottom. And we may answer some questions via the Q&A box through text, but we also may do it. We might just read it off in the session for Catherine and Migley to answer. So that's how we will go about it. Just to note, and Catherine has made this note in the presentation, but just to note that more specific questions to your personal circumstances should go directly to your visa compliance officer. And we likely won't be able to get into extremely specific things today, but certainly we'll look to answer, or the visa team will, because they're the experts, we'll look to answer as many questions as possible today. So yeah, so we'll go through the presentation, we'll turn to Q&A, and then we will wrap up, and I will turn it over to Catherine now.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Jake said, I'm going to touch on a few key topics that we're seeing come up from students and families. And the first one I would like to discuss is just how to claim your Cash Shield account. So we've had a lot of notes from students saying that they haven't received an invitation for their Cash Shield account. So all invitations to Cash Shield are sent to your @Northeastern EDU account, not to your personal account. So please make sure that you're checking your Northeastern EDU account for that invitation from Cash Shield, but also for other really important communications that the university is going to be sending you throughout the summer period. If you have not yet claimed your Northeastern student email account, please click the unique link that was sent to you by the ITS team and follow the process that is in that email. If you do have any issues accessing your northeastern.edu account, please contact the IT service desk, and I have popped their email there at the bottom of the screen for you. On the left hand of the screen, you can see what the invitation to Cash Shield will look like. It comes through exactly like that in the email. It's going to have your name on it, and you just need to click the blue Get Started button to claim your account and to set up your password, and you'll be well on your way to start your CAS process. The other thing that is really important for us to discuss today is the importance of accuracy when you're completing your information in Cash Shield. I know that it's a really simple and easy system to use, and you feel like you can fly through it. But I do ask that students and parents take time when answering the questions. You need to answer as accurately as you can. Make sure you're reading the questions in full, because the information that you give to us, we use to issue your CAS, and we share it with the UKVI, with the UK government. Not all of it, but some of the main information that you provide us with. So it's really important that you provide us with all of the accurate information so that you have no delays in your visa application. If at any time you're not sure about the questions that you're answering or what you're meant to answer, you can chat to your VCO, so your Visa Compliance Officer, and you can use the chat function. So I've put an example on the left-hand side of the screen. The little blue circle at the bottom, you can click on that and type your questions. It is answered by a real person, not by a bot. So we are on UK time, so it might take a little bit of time for us to respond to you. You're not going to get an automatic answer, so do bear with us. We will respond to you as soon as we can. Remember also that you're applying for a UK visa and you're using a UK Cash Shield system, and in that we use pound sterling. So if you're answering questions about any of your finances, make sure that you're using pounds. We recommend that you use the oanda.com currency converter for your converting any currencies, just because that is the converter that the UK government uses. So it's going to provide you with an accurate conversion that is going to be like for what the UK government uses. I know at the end of the Cash Shield process, there is a questionnaire about students' study goals and career goals. I would ask that students are realistic in what they expect to be earning when they graduate. We would all love to be earning £200,000 as soon as we graduate, but I think do a little bit of research into the career that you're looking at undertaking, and put a realistic amount of what you expect to be earning once you graduate. So I think we are now on to the Q&A portion. I just would like to reiterate that we're not going to be able to answer every single question, especially if it's related to personal circumstances. We can answer broadly in this Q&A session questions. If it is very personal and very individualized, it's best that those questions are raised with your Visa Compliance Officer. You can send us an email. I've put the Visa Compliance Team email at the bottom of the slide here. You can chat using the chat function on Cash Shield, and also through that you can request a Zoom meeting or a telephone call if you feel like that is a better way of communicating your concerns or your questions to us. So I'll turn it over to Jake. I think he's got some questions.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was having some technical challenges. Yeah, so some of our more frequently asked questions that we wanted to bring up, the first one being, and I think whoever is comfortable can jump in answering, are 529 accounts acceptable?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yes, 529 accounts are acceptable. However, there are a few requirements that account needs to meet. So if the account is in the mum or dad's name, the student in question will need to be the beneficiary of that account and those funds. And we may also need to verify the relationship. So we will need a copy of the birth certificate and permission for the student to use the funds. However, please do note that the 529 can only be used to show proof of tuition, and proof of maintenance must be shown in a different account.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so this is another one. What should I do if I have received a grant or scholarship from Northeastern University? Can I use this as part of my visa application?
Yeah, you absolutely can. So you can use any grant that you've received from Northeastern University directly as proof of finances, as proof of part of your finances. What you need to do is just let your VCO know via the chat function that you have a grant, and they will initiate an upload that's specific to your grant letter. So you'll need to provide us with your grant letter, and then we can deduct that from the amount that you need to show when making your visa application.
Wonderful, thank you. Another question that came up, and I think is fairly common, is I am traveling over the summer. How do I make sure that I get my visa in time for the start of the program?
Yeah, that is definitely a common one that we hear most days. So I know that a lot of families have pre-booked travel arrangements. So it's really important that you communicate all of your dates to your visa compliance officer, and they can set out a plan for your visa application. So we will need to know when you're planning on leaving the US or your home country, when you're planning to return, and then if you are willing to undertake expedited visa services. So expedited visa services are available to most countries. There is a significant cost that is linked to that. We can provide you with further information on that, but you can get a 5 working day turnaround on a visa application, or a 48-hour turnaround. Like I said, it does come with additional costs. I would like to say that we know that summer is really nice for vacations, but making your visa a priority is really important. Without your visa, you're not able to enroll in the London Scholars Program, and we really don't want students to be delayed as well. So if the focus can be on the visa, if there is that possibility of making the visa focus, that will make the visa process much easier for students and families.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that even if you do have travel happening over the summer, we ask that students and families are engaged in the visa process as soon as possible, and connecting with that visa compliance officer as soon as possible to communicate those concerns or those questions that you have. And we'll be reaching out from our team if students haven't engaged by a certain point, but we want students and families to be engaging as soon as possible. Great. So another question that we had was, I don't have my final high school transcript yet. Can I use my provisional transcript and just bring my final one to enrollment?
Thank you. So for CAS purposes, as set by the UKVI, we need to see an official qualification. So we would need to see a copy of an official transcript or diploma as well. We are very aware that students would like to get their CAS issued on a provisional qualification. Unfortunately, that is not allowed. But we do encourage, as Catherine has said, submit all other documents as early as possible, so that when your qualification is ready and when we have reviewed it and meets requirements, it is just a lot more easier and quicker for you to obtain your CAS.
Great, thank you. So it looks like some of the other, we have this question a few times is, how can we identify our visa compliance officer?
Yeah, so identify as in put them by name in an email.
Or how can we, how do we know who they are? Or
Oh,
who's,
how do we know who they are?
or
Yeah,
who the student is assigned to?
sure. So in the chat function, if you're communicating with your visa compliance officer, they will always sign off with their name. You won't sort of know exactly from the start. It won't open up on Cash Shield and say your VCO is Catherine or Migle. But as you're communicating, you will be able to see. You can always drop it in the chat as well. Say, introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a student. I'm wanting to talk to my VCO. What's your name? But know that, yeah, you will be speaking to your dedicated visa compliance officer on the chat.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And we had a couple of questions, it seems like, about the financial specifics, or not specifics, but the financial requirements for the visa and the proof of funding, essentially, or the proof showing those financial statements. Would either of you be able to just go over briefly the required financial components
Sure,
for
I
the
can do that.
process?
Yeah, I can do that for sure. So the finances are broken up into two parts. The first part is the tuition fees for the program, and the second part is a UK government mandated living cost. So the first portion, the tuition fees, that is the cost that of the tuition portion of the London Scholars Program. So it's not the entire program costs. It doesn't include the accommodation costs or the flight costs. It just is purely the tuition amount. And that is currently set, or that is set for all students and this is in pounds, so it's 51,997. It's on Cash Shield already. You'll see that amount. So you'll need to meet that amount of the tuition fees plus the UKVI mandated living costs, which is £12,006. And so those two together make up the financial requirement that you'll need to show in your bank statements in order to gain the visa. We'll then deduct the deposit that you've already paid to Northeastern University from that. And also any grants that you have received. So you'll need to give us the grant letter and we'll deduct that amount. Unfortunately, any living costs, flight costs that you have paid towards the London Scholars Program do not count towards the UKVI mandated living costs, that £12,006. That's something that the government has mandated, and you need to show that completely separately and free to access. So basically the government wants to see that safety net of money that the student will be able to support themselves while they're living in the UK. So that's the reason, that's the government's reason for having that. And that is mandated to all UK international students who need a visa across the country. It doesn't matter what program they're on, what universities they're studying at, that's for all students. So as I said before, it's the 51,991 plus the £12,006.
Great, thank you, Catherine.
Mhm.
All right, so this question is about student age when doing the visa application. So when the application asks whether your student is or a student is 18, do you answer as of the start of the program or the current date? So an example is a student is currently 17 years old over the summer, but will be 18 by the start of the program.
Sure, I can take that one. So yes, it's important that you put your age as you are of today. So if you're 17, you do need to specify that in our cash shield systems. We do understand that students will be turning 18 over the summer, and by the time they enroll, they will be 18. But the reason why we ask you to put your current ages is because you will be under 18 when you'll be making your visa application. Therefore, we will need to obtain parental consent for you to travel and apply for the UK visa. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. And let's see. So this one is and this might be a more specific situation, but there seems to be a question or two about folks who need to make an application. So there looks like someone has an Irish passport. So can you just clarify who does not need to make an application and who does need to make an application?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a British or Irish citizen and you hold the passport for a British passport and an Irish passport, that's quite important. You don't need to make a student visa application. Lucky you get to just arrive and enroll. So UK British citizens, obviously, but also Irish citizens, and that's because the UK government has an agreement with the Irish government, and Irish citizens are free to live and study in the UK. If you are a British or Irish citizen, but you don't hold a passport, you will either need to obtain one of those passports if you're able to prior to enrollment. If you're not able to, you'll need to make a student visa application. If you are not a British or Irish citizen, if you're from any other nationality, you will need to obtain a student visa to study on the London Scholars Programme.
Fantastic, thank you. So this question is asking, is the visa team essentially checking on the visa application for students, and if a student doesn't meet financial requirements, are you letting students know?
Yeah, sure, I can answer that one. Yes, so anything that is uploaded onto Cash Shield, we do check them, check the documents, review them, see if they meet requirements. Unfortunately, if the required financial funds are not within the statement, or if they've not been held for the 28 consecutive days, or if the statement has expired, the VCO will then reject the statement and will ask you to provide alternative statements due to the reason, but that of course is specific and as per case by case basis. But the VCO will of course let you know as soon as possible so that there's enough time to resubmit and review.
Thank you so much.
I just want to add on to that just quickly, just for clarification. So the visa compliance team don't issue the visas. So we issue your CAS, and then it's up to the student to independently make their visa application to the UK government through the online website. But I just wanted to make that clear because I suppose it is a little bit confusing. So what the visa compliance team does is check all of your documentation to make sure that you meet immigration requirements. So we're checking that you're going to have a successful visa application. That's why we might go back and forth with you, because the immigration rules are dense and they can be a bit tricky to meet. So we're there to guide you and make sure that you do meet the immigration rules. And once you do, and all of your documentation does, then we would issue your CAS and you would then independently make the visa application. We also, once you've made the application online, we do provide a guide about how to make that visa application and how to make your biometrics appointment. But once you have submitted and paid your fees, we have no control over that. So we cannot affect the outcome or the speed of a visa application. We don't have contacts in the government because all of your applications are generally, decisions are made locally. So we're not able to assist in that sense, but we do provide guidance based on students' experiences in the past.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. That's a great clarification. And so another question that came up was about the tuberculosis test requirement. And we're just curious if you're able to just provide any additional information on that potential requirement. I believe there's a resource that students can look at for that as well.
Yeah, sure. I can take that one. So yes, tuberculosis tests, they do vary. So the general rule is if the student has lived within a country that has listed within the UKVI list of tuberculosis tests that need to be taken within the last 6 months, then yes, they have to be tested. However, if you, for example, are a US national and you've lived in the US for your entire life, you do not need a tuberculosis test. You can access this list of countries on the UKVI website. I believe if you type in UKVI tuberculosis test, it will give you a list of countries, and it will also give you a booklet which provides a list of UKVI approved centers, medical centers within each country. So you will know exactly which medical center to go to, and because the tuberculosis certificates have to be produced by a UKVI approved medical center. So they provide that. They also provide opening times and addresses as well. So all the resources are there. If you are struggling to find it, you are more than welcome to message your visa compliance officer at CashShield or drop us an email and we can send you that resource right away.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, would either of you be able to just briefly explain the requirement for arrival and departure flight details for the visa process?
Sure. So flight details, I know that most people will be on the group flights. So I just need a little bit of clarification. So I might talk about two situations. So if you're talking about what you need to put on your visa application, so you would work with the dates that you plan to arrive in the UK and the dates that you plan to leave the UK. If you're talking about what you need to upload to CashShield, if you have an itinerary of your flights already, you can upload that to CashShield. If you don't have that at the moment, that's okay. You don't have to upload that straight away.
Great.
I hope that's answered the question. If not, if there needs to be clarification, please put it in the Q&A and we'll try and get to that one again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Catherine. Let's see. Okay, this question is about the National Health Service, or NHS, fee, and just kind of that access. So when students are on the student visa, can you explain what that access to the NHS and National Health Service looks like?
Yeah, sure. So any student that's on a student visa is eligible to access the National Health Service, or NHS. So what that means is students are eligible to sign up with GPs or doctors here in the UK. They can go visit their local clinic and sign up. It also gives them access to health services, such as our hospitals. It means that if you require medication here on prescription from a UK doctor, that is subsidized. So generally, for any medication, we pay £9 per prescription. Also, if you need to be referred from your GP to a specialist, it's covered under the NHS. So, for example, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, I need you to get an X-ray or a scan, that will be covered under the NHS. If the GP says that you need to go for physiotherapy, that's kind of covered under the NHS. So pretty much most medical services are covered under that. The only ones that aren't are opticians and dentists. Dentists are subsidized heavily, but you would need to pay a fee. So I think the most you can pay in a session is £200 for the dentist, but generally it covers everything that you would need. If there is an emergency and you need to go to the A&E clinic, that's all paid for. Surgeries, anything like that, that's all covered under the NHS.
Great, thank you, Catherine. This question is about dual citizenship. This question is, with dual citizenship, if a student has US and EU citizenship with the EU country, is there any downside to using the EU country's passport for the visa application, or is there any information that they should be aware of if they are dual citizens?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, there are a couple of other things. So, for example, if you are a dual citizen and you have an EU passport, for example, maybe a Spanish passport, we do understand that some students do want to use the EU passport for travel purposes. So what the difference is within your EU passport, depending on your nationality, you may need to prove your English language efficiency at a B2 level, which is set by the UKVI. So you will have to undertake an English language test. So for London scholars, we do accept Duolingo. There's also TOEFL and IELTS. And you will have to pass the exam at a specific level in order for that to be acceptable. And in addition to, depending where you are planning to make your application, your visa application within the world. So if you are in an EU country with a EU passport, you may be able to use the app to complete your biometrics. So you may not need to go to a biometric center and physically submit your biometrics and then surrender your passport. But again, that does vary as per location. But of course, with US passports, because they are a national from a majority speaking country, US citizens do not need to provide English language tests. So that's kind of the pros and cons and the differences between the two nationalities and the passports.
Great to know. Thank you. So a question about submitting documents such as high school transcripts has come up a couple of times. I believe this information is available in CashShield, but where should any documentation be uploaded or sent? And this is specifically as well talking about like high school transcripts, diploma, things like that.
So in Cash Shield, you can upload it under academic transcript or academic certificates. If you're finding that you're not able to upload it, please, like we've said, just drop your VCO a chat or email us, and we'll let you know how to upload that. Alternatively, if we're really struggling with Cash Shield, we can password protect an attachment, and you can send it via email, but preferably through Cash Shield as a first option.
Great. And so I think that we have covered this previously, but I think it won't hurt to reiterate, do we need to complete the CAS in order to start the visa process? So wanted to just throw that one out again.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So it's part of the visa application. I'm sorry I don't have my visa journey slide with me today. So the steps are: step one, you provide your documentation through Cash Shield. The visa team checks it, makes sure that it meets all of the immigration requirements. And if it does, we get to step two, which is we issue the student a CAS. So basically it's an agreement saying that we, Northeastern University London, are happy to sponsor the student while they're studying here, because we act as the visa sponsors. So we look after the students, we look after their visas while they're here. So step one is providing the documentation. Step two is getting the CAS from Northeastern London to the student. And then step three is making the visa application itself. It's really important to note that you can't make your visa application without your CAS, because the CAS has a unique number, and without that, you're not able to make the visa application at all. So it's a really important step, and every student must do that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine. Let's see. Oh, I know this question comes up fairly regularly. So can students work while in London on a student visa?
That's a great question. Yes, we are a very common one. Yes, students on a student visa can work whilst they are studying. However, there are a few caveats. So during their term time, they are only allowed to work 20 hours per week, and the student must make sure that the shifts or that they're working do not in any way interfere with their scheduled lessons. However, after term time, so if you have a break and you want to work throughout the break, you can work more than 20 hours, but that has to be outside of term time. And the working hours will also be specified in your visa. So those students who will receive a biometric residence permit, it will be stated how long you can work. It's listed as under one of those conditions.
Fantastic. Thank you. This question is just asking, is it possible to get clarification on the visa costs, or the cost of the visa process, essentially?
Yeah, sure. So students, the visa application itself is £490. And then on top of that, you'll need to pay the IHS surcharge. So that's the immigration health surcharge, and that's the surcharge that allows you to access the health service in the UK when you're here, and that cost is £776. So those are the mandatory fees that you're going to pay to the UK government for the visa. there is optional additional costs as well, and that's if you wanted to expedite your visa services, and that varies from country to country. If you do wish to pay the additional fees for an expedited service, so that 5 days or that 48-hour service, please get in contact with your VCO and we can give you country-specific information.
Fantastic, thank you. This question is asking, so it seems as though our bank can submit a letter stating proof of funds. Who should this letter be made out to?
Yeah, so it can either be made up to Northeastern University London, or it can be made out to the UK Visa and Immigration Department. Either is absolutely fine.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's see. Let's see. This question is asking about what all the required deadlines are for each step of the process. And I know that, Catherine, you have that, the My Visa journey slide. But we also have in our playlist of which you'll have access to via your ASC, your application status check. You'll have access to the informational session that was recorded a couple of weeks ago, which I believe has information on all of those steps. But Catherine, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing up those recordings and the guides. The first big deadline for London scholars is the 5th of July. So that's the latest date that you can have all of your documentation to Cash Shield. While that is the latest deadline, we do highly recommend that students get their information in as soon as possible. The visa process can take a little bit of time, so the sooner you start, the better, and we can avoid any delays that come up. But that first deadline is the 5th of July. The second deadline is the 1st of August. So we will be having all of our CAS issued to students by 1st of August. And then obviously 2nd of September is enrollment. And we'll be seeing all of the students at enrollment face-to-face.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. For the student visa, how long before and after the program can students be in the country?
So it depends on when you make your visa application, but generally students will get a week prior to their program start date. So your program start date is the 2nd of September. So a week before that, your visa will be valid for entry. And then after your program end date, so that's the 2nd of May 2025, you will have 2 months afterwards to be in the UK. It's really, really important that students don't travel to the UK prior to that entry date, that validity date that's on their visa, because if you enter the UK before the validity of your visa, you're actually on the incorrect visa for study. You'll be on a visitor visa rather than a student visa, and that might mean that you have to return home or leave the UK and then re-enter on your student visa. So yes, the week before, 2 months after, and then making sure that you're not entering the UK before the validity of that visa.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And I think similarly around the idea of travel is just, is there anything anything that the visa team needs to be made aware of if students are traveling like back to the US for like holiday potentially in December, or if they are traveling generally during the program.
Yeah, sure. So, if you are planning to travel whilst you are in term time, so whilst you have scheduled classes, because you are on a student visa, we will monitor your attendance on a weekly basis. So it's very important that if you need to travel, that you contact us as soon as possible with the reasonings, and then we will try and try to authorize that absence where we can. We do have a policy based on how we accept this, and we do understand and insert certain exceptional circumstances, we try very hard to make that happen. And generally, if you are traveling during Thanksgiving and you have scheduled breaks in between your studies, so you don't have any scheduled classes, you are free to travel. Just please make sure that you are back before or when your classes start, so you don't miss any classes or any information that's been communicated to you.
Fantastic, thank you. So this question seems to have come up a couple of times. Do transcripts need to be sent directly from high school, from the school that's granting it, or is a copy sufficient?
So we can accept copies of the transcript, but the ideal situation would be for the school to send it to us directly. Then we don't have to go through a verification process. If your school is able to email it to us at that visa@NU-London email that's at the bottom of the screen, that would be the best case. If you're not able to do that, if the school's not able to send the transcript directly, let us know, and we can always work on the copy of that final transcript. But remember, it has to be the final transcript. You have to have graduated and passed your high school qualification for us to use that transcript.
All right, thank you. So we've gotten a couple of questions again around the whether or not a round trip ticket is required for the visa process, like a round trip arrival and departure flight, or can a one-way ticket be purchased?
For London scholars, yeah, you only need the one way. I'm not sure if there is any additional Northeastern University policies around this, but in terms of just visas, you don't need to have that return ticket. You have a valid visa, so you're very welcome to be in the UK and studying. So it's not necessary for you to have that outbound journey.
Yeah, and to clarify, if students are participating in the group flight process, group flight tickets can only be purchased in pairs. So if students opt into the group flight, then they will get a arrival flight for the beginning of the program in August, and then a departure flight in May for London scholars. And we always recommend that students do have those plans in place for departure, just so that they kind of have that figured out as best as possible. Let's see here. Another question that came up that I think I can answer, but if Catherine or Miguel would like to jump in at all, please feel free. While on break, so Thanksgiving, winter, spring, or Easter break, is a student allowed to stay in the living quarters or the accommodations? So the answer is yes. But we generally during the longer like winter break, we generally recommend that if students are able to make their way home, then that's always suggested just in that case, because things do tend to just be a little bit more quiet over the course of the winter break in the UK, is my understanding. But Catherine or Migla, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that's my understanding as well. If you're able to return home, that's always nice. It's always nice to have a change of scenery and see family if you can. It is a lot quieter in the student halls, but they are available to students if that is not a possibility during that winter break.
Absolutely. And please know that additional information about just specifics for the program will be coming out later in the summer. So specifics about, things like housing and other pieces like that. We have plenty of comms or emails that will be sent to students and families as we move through the summer. So you're certainly not behind, and being at these sessions and reviewing these recordings is always helpful. But as we are wrapping up, I do want to turn it back over to Catherine and Migla just to basically share with us any thoughts on things that weren't shared today, that maybe came up as we were chatting, or things that you feel are important for folks to know as we are wrapping up our first Q&A. And of course, remember, there are other Q&A sessions coming up, and then this recording will also be sent to students. And will be available in our YouTube playlist as well for further review after the session. So yeah, we'll start with Catherine. Any closing thoughts for things you would like to share?
Yeah, so firstly, I'd just like to thank all of the students and families for attending this session, and for engaging in the process. I think that's my biggest thing to push to students and families, is that engagement and communication in this process really is key here. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to speak to your VCO. If you have any travel plans, if you are not sure of what documents you need to upload, it's really important that you communicate with us and communicate early. The sooner we can assist you, the sooner we can get you on the right track with your visa. So yeah, that's sort of my piece for our students.
Great. Fantastic. Well, and I think if there were any questions that we didn't get to today, apologies for that. And if things were a little bit more specific this time around, we do ask again that you reach out to you use that chat function, reach out to your VCO directly to just kind of clarify some of the more specific pieces about finances. If you have additional questions about any parts of the process, then please feel free to reach out. Again, we'll have plenty of other opportunities throughout the summer to connect. So certainly not everything needs to be answered today, but I think that being here puts everybody ahead of schedule. So, so any final thoughts, Catherine, Migla? Awesome. Well, in that case, thank you all so much for joining us today. We, again, we'll be sharing some additional information. We'll be sharing out the recording following this session. This will be available in the YouTube playlist. And again, please stay in touch over the course of the summer, and we will be in touch with you regularly. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.